County Budget Committee meeting for Thursday, September 8th, 2022, 4 o'clock p.m. Robbie, if you would, call the roll, please.
Okay, Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Commissioner Vandegrift.
Here.
Commissioner White. He's here behind me. Commissioner Denenberg is absent right now. Commissioner Beauchamp.
Here.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Here.
Commissioner Wandale.
Here.
And Chairman Dow.
Here.
Here.
If y'all would join me in prayer, please, and we'll ask Commissioner Wandale to lead us in the pledge. Heavenly Father, we come to you again, giving you honor and praise and thanking you, Father, for all the blessings that you give us so freely each and every day, most of all for our salvation. Please forgive us, Lord, when we fail you. We know there's many times. Please make us worthy today, God, to enter into this meeting to do the work of your people. We pray that you be with each heart, each mind, each one that speaks. Give us your wisdom, your discernment. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our new members, Commissioner Foster, Commissioner Vandegrift, Commissioner Beauchamp, and Commissioner Wandale, who's not a new commissioner but new to the Budget Committee. We had a little bit of confusion on proper procedure for today, but we've spoken with the law director and we think we got it all straightened out, so we're going to proceed as normal unless there is an objection. Hearing none, we will proceed on. The way we do it, we always start off the Budget Committee meetings with our Finance Director. He gives us an update on our cash and fund balance report, and then on our sales tax revenue. We started doing that a couple years ago, Robbie?
Yes. About 2 years ago.
Yeah, y'all probably already know this, but the internet sales tax law went into effect where we actually started gaining sales tax revenue on internet sales and delivery, so that helped us quite a bit. So he likes to keep us updated on that. Robbie, go ahead.
Sure. Well, the cash and fund balance report, just first of all, it's unaudited. We won't have audited numbers till another month or so. But I do have new numbers. Restricted funds for the general fund are $1,146,713. Committed funds, $1.7 million. Assigned funds are $2.1 million. Unassigned fund balance is $12,075,197 for a total fund balance of $17,027,983. Cash is $14,073,017. General purpose school 141 fund balance $15,747,020 and cash $15,657,721. Does anybody have any questions about the fund balance report? I will say cash is a little bit less than last year, but we are receiving, we haven't started collecting property taxes and our sales tax is kind of leveled off, so it's still a good cash number, up from $4 million from 2021, but a little lower than last year.
And just for the benefit of the new commissioners, if our fund balance reaches below
5.5 million.
5.5, then it takes a supermajority vote of commissioners to spend any money out of that.
And that is always listed on this report too.
I got a question.
Commissioner Wandale.
Chairman, so when you say general assigned fund balance limited to 5.5, what, explain to me which of these funds up here represent the 5.5?
The unassigned fund balance of 12 million on the top row.
Okay.
That's our unassigned fund balance, and that's what we're talking about there. The rest of those funds are committed or restricted for other purposes, so they have to have a budget amendment and approved by commission to move any of those funds. Unassigned does too, but it's kind of like they're not connected to anything or any purpose right now.
Could you just give a quick snapshot of, for some on the committee, especially myself, I always like a reminder, the difference between restricted funds, committed funds, assigned funds?
Yes. So restricted funds are obviously restricted by law, or for example, when we got the sports gaming tax in just last year, automatically told us when we got that revenue, if it wasn't spent by commission, it had to go into restricted fund. The state law tells us those funds are restricted. A lot of times it's a court fee that we're collecting that automatically at the end of the year we move to like general sessions, like circuit court clerk into their data processing fees, so stuff like that, that's restricted. Committed and assigned have less of a restriction. It's more of a commission level that we're in the meeting, we're committing these funds or assigning these funds for a purpose. They can also be unassigned or uncommitted by commission as well if we don't spend them. Restricted can't be, but it's just less restriction as you go down. Assigned has the least restrictions on it.
Assigned?
Yes.
Has the least
Yes.
restrictions on it? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any further questions on the cash and fund balance report? If not, moving along.
In the sales tax report, for the month of July, we collected 3.7 million, 3,781,874, which was down 2% from last July. But for the county, Anderson County portion, 532,923, that was up 30% from last July. So the county saw an increase, Anderson County's portion, but the total went down 2%. So we're kind of leveling off. One thing I ran report, I looked at the last 2 years of sales tax that we collected in the general fund, highway, and 141. Those are the three funds that are benefited from the sales tax. In 2021, we were at 1,930,628. In 21-22, 1,934,154, which had only increased 3,500. So we've kind of leveled off on sales tax, which we're collecting a lot more than we did 3 years ago. But what we're collecting now is pretty much the same as we have in the last 2 years. So, and the same for highway, it only went up $2,071, whereas the 141 fund was almost 300,000, but they're in the $12 million range, whereas highway and general fund are in the $1 million. So theirs obviously went up a little more.
Good question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Robbie, on these 22-23 funds for the budget, as we're into that fiscal year now,
Yes.
are we on target with what, and I guess my question is, do we budget with these numbers in mind that you're presenting for the sales tax revenue?
Yes, we did. So the general fund budget is 1,750,000, which is a little bit less than what we collected last year, but we start that in April, and I'd rather be conservative than, predict 250,000 more than we're really gonna get. So they're a little bit on the conservative side, but they are very close. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Got a question.
Mhm.
You said we've leveled out the last 2 years, but how much are we up percentage-wise compared to 3 years ago when we kind of
Well,
saw online sales tax come into play?
I didn't get that
Okay,
figure,
sorry.
but I should have, but probably 1.2 million compared to what we had back in the,
We saw an increase too. so
Gary
that's
can
why-
attest to that too. The sales taxes went up a lot the last 2 years.
New law, I think,
Yeah. It's allowed us to keep the tax rate, what we have and with the things we have done with raises for the employees and other things in the county, the sales tax has helped tremendously.
Any further questions on the sales tax report? Moving on.
Okay. I'm gonna try to take these budget amendments a lot slower than I normally do, and 0 through 2 are on the consent agenda. They're transfers, which means they're transfer, like the 52-100 my code, if I transferred one budget item to another in my code, except for payroll. So the first 3 are just transfers within the same budget line items. The first one is from EMS. It's for $1,500, transferring from other contracted services to travel, to increase travel expenses due to EMS staff attending National Fire Academy training.
And just so y'all understand, because I still get confused on it sometimes too, we always have it on the agenda which votes we're going to take that will finally approve it on committee level versus which ones we have to send on to full commission for a vote.
The first 3 do not go to full commission.
Correct.
Once we approve them in this committee, they're approved.
Yep.
Because they're transfers.
And some committee members like to vote on items as a group. They may say, I want to make a motion to approve items 0 through 2. Some, if they're gonna have a discussion on it, then obviously we break them out and take them individually. So we always go by whatever the pleasure of the commission or the committee is on that.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we take them as a group and we approve.
Commissioner White moves to approve items 0, 1, and 2 as a group.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just
Commissioner Wande?
on the EMS, so am I reading this right, Nathan, just adding funds to your existing travel because you're projecting the cost to be higher?
Yes, sir. So this, for the most part, this training's free, except for the meal tickets required. It's like $300. So they go to Emmitsburg, Maryland. The travel's reimbursed. Their stay is paid for. It's National Fire Academy, and they have EMS-specific training.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, I had a question about the transfer due to the audit request.
Yes.
Commissioner
Under item
Manager,
number
go ahead.
2.
Yes, so in the past, probably 10 years, we've always paid jury expenses out of other contracted services, and this year audit just requested we move all those funds to 194. So we're just making that change. It was after the budget had already been passed, so I talked to Rex and we decided to make that change in the budget year, make that amendment. to the
Robbie,
budget.
can you give a little brief explanation of how a code works within a budget?
So, the perfect example here is the jury and witness expenses. We can only pay anything associated with a jury expense. That would include meal, like if they sequester the jury to, and they have to go somewhere and eat, which is usually Hoskins, we pay for those out of 190. Anything associated with a jury expense would be out of 194. Travel is 355, which is what Nathan we just approved for him, would be any kind of travel within your office, whether it be in the Anderson County, like to the post office or the bank. Sometimes we pay an employee gas mileage to those, or travel to a conference. The same, that comes all of that code. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah,
More or
just,
less.
the codes are, I guess, titled, for lack of a better word, and that's what that money's in that code for. And if there's any changes in it, then it has to come before us or full commission,
Right.
and we could say yes, we could say no, I guess, depending on the circumstance.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Commissioner Foster?
The number out to the side, the 140, like on the first one,
That's what's available in that code at the
that's
current
what's
time.
available
Yes.
pre-transfer.
Right. I always usually will write that out for everyone to know what's still in the code. For like other contracted services, we have $14,567.35. We're moving 14.5, which most of that is for jury expenses already in other contracted. Rex is just, the circuit court is just moving the rest of those funds to the code that audit requested.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 3 through 7 are from the school department. I'll just take them individually if that's okay. The first one is an appropriation committed for other purposes, $300,000 into 141-76-100-715, which is a land purchase. This is appropriate funds for the purchase of property needed for school improvements.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 3. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion? Commissioner Smallridge?
Yeah, wondering, Dr. Pier,
Yes.
what property is this?
So the reason we don't have this, we don't have it in here yet is because it's still, we've not got everything on the white line yet. You understand what I'm saying is? So the property is gonna be, it's at Clinton High School. We own 3 sides of it, and if you know, through the budget of the governor last year, he put aside $500 million for CTE. And as you know, our CTE program at ACCTC, we bus Clinton students up there. And our welding program and our industrial maintenance is always full. We can't get enough people. So what this is, this land purchase will be to where we can build about a $2.4 million CTE building on Clinton High School's campus. And it will house industrial maintenance, welding, and our agricultural program.
Does it have coordinates with the other program you mentioned? I thought you mentioned.
Industrial maintenance,
Yeah.
yes, all three of them will be in that building, yes. Yep,
And I think it's time it was happening.
yes. And we've been trying to buy this piece of property, Mr. McCamey's been trying to buy it for about 12 years, and we hope that we got it. It's not this, it doesn't cost this much, but we put enough in there in case we have to do some other things with title searches and things like that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, the next one is an appropriation for $4,800 from restricted for education into travel and staff development, $2,800 for travel and $2,000 for staff development to appropriate coordinated school health funds remaining for the previous fiscal year, from the previous fiscal year for support of elementary school guidance counselors. Several of these counselors will be attending the Tennessee School Counselor Administrator Leadership Institute held in Murfreesboro on September 25th through the 27th.
Do we have a motion? Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 4, seconded by Commissioner White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, the next one is a appropriation from committed for capital outlay, $800,000 into building improvements. It is to appropriate funds for partial roof replacements of Clinton High School, Lake City Elementary School, and appropriation will also provide funds for maintenance building replacement at Blowing Springs.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 5. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White.
Dr. Parrott, to provide maintenance building replacement at Blowing Springs.
Yes, as you know, we, if you remember a few years back, you all were looking at the Bowling Springs, the old school up there, to do some work on that, to actually for a center, I won't say youth center, but senior center. And so that was just in disrepair. We tore it down it's been about 2 to 3 years ago. And so we don't have any space to put anything. We lost that space, and then we lost the space at, where we're building the new softball field. So it will be a metal building, and what it will house is, it will house a lot of our maintenance, not equipment, but our supplies, things like that,
Is the fence still around that property?
to some extent, yes. Yep.
So if this money will be, you'll put another fence around it, or is it?
I think the fence doesn't do as good as when we have a security system up there, and a security system with cameras. That's what helps more than anything.
Thank you.
Also, Commissioners, I remind you, it's hard to get used to, but the microphones help the television viewers hear what our discussion is, and they like to text Andy or text one of us and let us know that we're not using them, so just to remind everybody about that.
About 650,000 is for roofs, and then the other 150 would be for the building.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner
So
Foster.
on the roofs, are those, it says partial, so I'm guessing roofs have been repaired or replaced?
So
Yeah.
So what we do is on a lot of our big schools, we do them in sections, and when the warranty runs out on one section, that way you don't have to replace the whole roof at one time. So that's what we do. These are the roofs. We have a roofing company that does a 5-10 year out there, and they do. And so every year we do this out of our undesignated and try to make sure our roofs are all up to date.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, number 6 is an appropriation for committed for other purposes, $45,000 to motor vehicle 718 to appropriate funds for purchase of replacement vehicles as needed within Anderson County Schools.
This here, we're working with the Sheriff's Department. We've never bought used vehicles before. The Sheriff's Department always buys them and we buy those for our SROs, and we're also buying a vehicle to replace one that's 13 years old in the county. But also, we have a lot of English as a second language students now, and we have to transport them sometimes to the school. Well, a new van now has went from 23,000 to 45,000. So we can buy this 2021 vehicle. They're Ford Explorers. And they've got about 30,000 miles on. We can buy those for like 21,000. So we can buy 2 of these vehicles for what one van will cost us, and that will help us that way.
Do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
Commissioner Foster moves to approve item number 6. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wandell. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and number 7 is a transfer with payroll involved. Anytime there's a transfer with payroll or major line item, it has to be approved by full commission, and this is one of those. It's transferring money, increasing clerical personnel, 162, $23,043, and decreasing medical personnel, $23,043. This position was previously covered by a grant, and I'm assuming that we lost the grant, and the county's taken over the position, so that's what this is for.
Motion approved.
Commissioner Wandell moves to approve item number 7. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. Any discussion?
Actually, too, before that clerical person was actually an LPN, so we can pay it out of our nurses category, but now that they're clerical, you can't pay it out of that, too, so.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
All right, thanks, Dr. Parrott, that's all.
Is that all mine?
Yes.
Hey, welcome to the committee, and when you all when Robbie sends out the committee, if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate, just call me, and I will be more than happy to answer these things. And I will promise you, probably before the year's out, I will forget this meeting because I'll have something going on, and Robbie will have to call me, so I apologize in the forefront for it, okay?
That's happened once or twice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pruitt.
All right, the next one's from the Highway Department. It is an appropriation from the restricted for highway, $620,490, to bridge construction, $559,000, and engineering services, $61,490, for the Beach Grove Bridge.
Do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
Commissioner Wandell moves to approve item number 8. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion?
Gary, is this to replace the bridge, or?
That's, yes, new construction at that site.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe we have issues now with school buses being able to cross and several other issues really causing a problem in that community. Any further discussion, Commissioner
Is the
Foster?
bridge currently open?
Yes,
Okay.
with a restricted weight limit, a very light weight limit, yeah, 2 ton, I believe.
Any
What's
further-
if you don't mind, what's the estimated time for replacement, you reckon?
Been running the scheduling with the contractor, Tracy, and I'm
Okay.
not giving you the runaround, now it's hard to
No,
tell
no,
on
no.
today's market, but yeah.
All right.
Any further discussion?
Is this the bridge so the buses don't cross?
Yes, the
But
Beach
the
Grove.
coal trucks, long trucks still do?
Well, they're not supposed to, it's supposed to. I'm not gonna say they don't.
We don't think there's been much of that traffic up there lately, but, yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, number 9 is from the Circuit Court Clerk, Rex Lynch. It's decreasing his data processing reserve, $10,000, and increasing data process equipment, $709, $10,000. They're replacing outdated computers and monitors for the Circuit Court Clerk's office.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 9. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wandell. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
All right, 10 through 16 are from the Finance Department, me, but I'll take them individually. 10 is for Gibbs Ferry Memorial Park. We're going to replace the fishing pier. We actually approved this budget amendment last fiscal year for $20,000, but they weren't happy with the bid, and they have rebid the project, and it came in a lot cheaper at $14,725. So that money last year rolled into their reserve, and we're taking it back out to have the project to complete the project.
You said that, who wasn't happy with the bid?
The Conservation Board,
Okay, thank you.
they have a committee, a board that they meet each month.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 10. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
All right. So 11 and 12 and 13 are all three the same exact situation. They're grant money that the health department has received in the past and hasn't been able to spend. So each year I have to move it back to the reserve. And then the beginning of the fiscal year, we have to move it out of the reserve back into a code. So these are the available funds in each of these grants that are left. And so we're moving it back into the expenditure code so they can spend it this year.
Second.
Commissioner White moves to approve items 11, 12, and 13, and that was seconded by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion? Robbie, if you would, not only for the benefit of the new commissioner, but for myself, explain to us how that works, where if the money isn't spent by a certain time, then it has to go back and then have to go through the process again.
Yes, so with this grant money, it's for a specific purpose. We leave our books open until August, mid-August, but if they haven't spent those funds by then we close this account and put it in. I do a journal entry mid-August that moves money to all the reserves from unassigned, and then we move it. I have to do a budget amendment to move the money back, the funds back out of the restricted code so they can spend it again. It's kind of a lot of it. We've done this with some of these the last 3 or 4 years, so hopefully we might get this spent this year, but I don't know.
Thank you, Robbie. Any further discussion?
If the bid originally, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, yes, sir.
If the bid was originally 20,000 and the new bid is 14,000,
I don't know that the original bid was exactly, we're talking about the previous, but I don't know that it was exactly 20,000, but that's what the budget amendment was for, up to $20,000. The bid was higher than the 14,750.
what happened to that 5,500?
It rolled back into fund balance last year. We didn't spend any of that money.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 14, 15, and 16 are all the same too, but I'll take them individually just to explain them. Last year, all three of these are projects were approved by the Budget Committee and Commission in last fiscal year, but a PO, we didn't encumber the funds in a PO, so at the end of the year, the money rolls back into fund balance. But these are still ongoing projects, so I have to take the money out of fund balance and put it back in the code. So the first one is for the industrial development, the site development grant that we are working with the CEDA on. They're taking on the second page, you can see the 31-acre site that we're doing a site-ready pad that industry can come in and purchase. So we have already spent some of these funds, but not all of them. So it's $402,711 that's still available of the money that we appropriated last year for this.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Foster moves to approve item number 14. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion?
I
Commissioner
have one
Foster.
question. So if something like that comes out of the special code, if they don't spend that money, does it go back into that code?
Yes.
It doesn't go back in the general fund, it goes back.
Back into that, yeah, because it originally came out of a committed for industrial land purchase instead of, it didn't come out of unassigned, but it rolled into unassigned at the end of the year, so I'm just taking it back out of unassigned. But you are correct about that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, the next one is for the Norwood Safety Project. We had the opportunity to receive a grant for $711,396, and we contributed $275,000. I think I'm saying that right, Mayor. But we did not start any of the work last year, so this is reappropriating that $275,000.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Foster moves to approve item number 15. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and the last one of these is $116,400, It's also a matching funds for a grant for the health department. It's a 25% required match, and they will receive 75% more. And this was passed in last year's budget, but we did not start any of the work, so I'm just reappropriating these funds as well.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 16. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, number 17 is from Zone Planning, Office of Planning and Development, and the mayor. It is taking $5,727 from unassigned fund balance and asking to put $5,000 in a payroll code and the rest in fringe benefits. We had an employee receive their building inspector certification, and this is to try increase his salary $5,000 because of that.
Motion approved.
Commissioner Wandale moves to approve item number 17. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner White. Any discussion? Commissioner Smalley.
So as I understand that this would allow Mrs. Phillips, is that
It's actually Danny Phillips, Mr. Phillips.
to do building inspections, and so this would give us a lot more
Flexibility.
capacity to do
Yes.
that.
We'll have two in that department now that can do building inspections.
Good move.
Yes, it is. And not easy to acquire this, so.
And does this cover like plumbing and like, or is it just framing and that kind of thing? Because I know there's multiple inspections.
It's just framing.
Just framing, okay.
But he is going to get his plumbing and mechanical. He's studying for it now. So he is working on it.
And I guess you have all those, don't
Yes, sir.
you? How many do you have?
13.
I just wanted you to say.
Didn't know I could count that high.
Yes, ma'am. I ain't put nothing past you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and the last two, 18 and 19, are both from the senior center. They're both grants where we're increasing revenue and increasing expenditure code. It's basically money that a grant is given the county at no cost to us to perform different services for the senior center.
Motion approved.
Move.
Motion made by Commissioner Wandale to approve number 18, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Can we do the 18 and 19 on that one?
Sure, 18 and 19.
As a group? Is that all right with you? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried. And Robbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever we accept a grant like that, it actually has to come before us and we have to vote to accept the grant because of everything, all the
Yes.
stipulations there may be that goes along with it.
Yes. That usually comes in purchasing and through the law director contracts and stuff.
See, I can actually do this and learn stuff myself and make it, oh, it's for the benefit of these new ones, and I can learn stuff too.
All right, in the section part, section A is TDEC ARP funds discussion that I'm going to let the mayor discuss.
Mayor Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the new commissioners to Budget Committee. I have Aaron here from Cannon and Cannon Engineering, and Aaron is attending all of the meetings on the TDEC ARP funds, and so please feel free to ask her any questions here tonight. She is highly literate. Randy in the finance department is, I would say, he's our inside government expert on all things ARP, or is able to get those answers. So if you have any questions about those items, feel free to reach out to Randy or Robbie or myself, but we're probably going to walk over and talk to Randy. So a couple of things here before you. I put before you, you have on the agenda the three options, but I also put it to you in the form of this kind of an abbreviated memo. So Anderson County has been assigned a little over $5 million for water, wastewater, stormwater projects. And we can do several things with that money, but we're limited. It has to go to what TDEC says. We have to have specific projects. It has to meet their project guidelines. That's on the TDEC side of things, and that's the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. So I've put before you the cities within Anderson County, so Oak Ridge, Clinton, Rocky Top, Norris, and Oliver Springs. They all are receiving or eligible to receive funds that are on this page 2 of your document. So there is a column here, and you'll note it says Direct TDEC ARP. And ACWA, that's the Anderson County Water Authority that serves the county, they're not receiving anything from that allocation because they're a water authority and they're not a municipality. Through TDEC, each of these cities is going to receive the amounts that are in that column. So Clinton is going to receive 1.588 million, Norris 682,000, Oliver Springs 898,000, Rocky Top 792,000, Oak Ridge 2.5 plus million. So what you can do is you could, and we've talked about this briefly, some of you new commissioners weren't at their workshop, but we had a couple of workshops where we talked about the use of these funds. We could use all of the $5 million for Anderson County Water Authority for county services only. That's one option. We could utilize a combination and keep it within the county as it's coming to the county. And by combination, I mean we could use that for Anderson County Water Authority or also stormwater projects. And stormwater projects would include things like the culverts on the roadways where there are some issues and problem areas, and the county might want to provide additional funding to help in that area. Or the county could utilize a portion for the Anderson County Water Authority and then transfer a portion of the funds to all the municipalities that operate eligible systems, which all of our cities do. Oak Ridge, Norris, Clinton, Oliver Springs, Rocky Top operate your own systems. And so if we do choose that path, the transfer path, by October's meeting at the latest, we would need to approve a resolution that authorizes that transfer. So that's pretty much by November 1, that's a hard deadline. So if we do choose the transfer option, we need to make a decision this month, preferably this month, but by next month at the very latest. So based on the transfer idea, we asked, and that's why Aaron is here, we asked Aaron and Cannon to take a look at a possible distribution formula for how we would share those funds with municipalities if we choose the transfer option. And so that's in your schedule here. If you want me to read it, I'm happy to. If you think it's beneficial for the people at home, I'm happy to do that. I don't want to waste the committee's time, so whatever you prefer.
Any preference by anyone?
Mayor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
I would like to hear you talk more about number A, to utilize all the 5 million plus for the ACWA. I'd like to, that would be my preference to, all these cities have their own. I guess I just don't completely understand why we would want to share that.
It's just an option for the commission. So there are commissioners that represent the cities, and they may want to see that the county share part of our funds for city projects as well. So it's only an option, and again, it's completely up to county commission. I just try to put forward to commissioners being considerate of all opinions and differences of opinions. So that's just why it's an option there. It may be something that you may have a majority of the cities say, well, we think we should get a small portion of that to further our projects.
Water Authority have more ideas as to how to utilize that money?
We have actually put that in your workshop packets before. They have numerous projects that will exceed that amount. So, I mean, they have plenty of projects, without a doubt.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Commissioner Foster.
And I'll speak on from two sides of things, because obviously Rock's the opposite city I work for and deal with municipalities with the water and sewer. So even with ACWA, we partner a lot with ACWA. We provide water, they provide water in areas that we provide sewer. We have over $4 million worth of repairs to our sewer system. Norse has, let's say, $12 million worth of repairs to sewer system. Clinton, I can't speak for CUB because I don't know all their details, but I do know ACWA passes their sewer through CUB. They do all the treating. So even if you divide that up, obviously, we did get a direct allocation, and a lot of that came from, and I'll give you some of the background. Originally, it was all coming to the county, but too many counties didn't get along, and they all fought and said, we don't want this money, or the city, we're not gonna work with the county. That was never Anderson County. We all came to the table right off the beginning and said, hey, we're going to work together, come up with a master plan to figure out how to divide this money up to help all the utilities, because we all serve Anderson County residents. My sewer system provides sewer to people outside the city limits, on both, on the Anderson County side and the Campbell County side. We've requested funds from Campbell County too, because we have so many customers that we provide sewer to on the Campbell County side, and they got an allocation. I say Oak Ridge is asking for money from Roane County because they have a system that runs into Roane County. And Oliver Springs is probably asking money from Morgan County because I don't know their systems, right? But that's why, originally it was gonna be a countywide, here's the money, you gotta come up with a master plan, here's how you spend it. Well, then, too many people didn't get along, so TDEC said, okay, we're gonna throw this money and divide it up based on a formula, and then so much is gonna go back to the counties, and so much is gonna go to the cities, and then you still have an opportunity to work together. Multiple counties are doing that, going back and saying, hey, I know they, like Greene County, the city of Greenville, Greene County, they just did like a $30 million project together. So it's one of those things that's, from the city side of things, we do work together. ACWA obviously has a lot of needs. They don't run a sewer system. They run mostly water. They do have sewer customers. Just like I know Claxton has, CUB has sewer in Claxton. Which I know we're trying to work that out with ACWA, but I think it's very important for CUB to get some of that money to help non-Clinton city residents when it comes to that, because those systems serve outside of the city limits. So that's just my 2 cents.
Commissioner Morris.
So it sounds, Mayor, like all of our communities within the county, plus the county, have more work to do than certainly their funds. Even though $5 million is a nice grant, there's still an awful lot to do in all of the communities. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. And so TDEC will, if there are leftover funds, they are also putting together, they're going to make available additional grants. So the cities will have that opportunity to apply. I don't know that necessarily Anderson County Water Authority will, but Aaron, I would say the county could definitely apply for more if we had some projects. Would that be correct?
Yes, ma'am. What my understanding is that as of late, that I don't know that we should, I don't know how much that leftover amount will be.
Okay.
I guess is my,
Okay.
so I'm not sure on what scale.
Couple more questions.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Didn't we set aside matching funds for this or no?
We have not. And I don't know, so I think originally we thought there was a matching fund requirement out of our ARP funds. Then I don't think there are. And Randy, did you?
There is a matching requirement depending on, nature of the application that we make. We can get that requirement down to like 5%.
Okay.
That's my
Okay.
understanding.
Last question, or comment, I'd like to hear a little more about the formula that we use, that you mentioned, for distributing these funds to the communities.
Sure. And Aaron, if you want to come up, because you're really good at this particular portion, the formula where we talked about the distribution, What we did is Cannon and Cannon looked at the methodology used by TDEC in order to come up with their allocation. So are you comfortable with sharing that, Aaron?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Erin Wiesahan. I'm going to quiz you on how to spell that later. So the methodology used by TDEC, when we were looking at this from an objective standpoint, we really didn't want to deter from methodology that was already in place that TDEC used to allocate these funds. So TDEC considered a variety of factors. There was a base allocation that was equal amongst all counties, and then a base allocation that was equal amongst all, cities. And that was straight across the board. And then on top of that, there was a population allocation, which was strictly based on, I think it wound up to be like $36 per person, something to that effect. And then it was further refined by the ability to pay index. So the more affluent counties have a higher ability to pay, so they're not going to get as much allocated per person as a county that's not as affluent. So all that said, we felt that the most objective way to move forward was just to not necessarily adjust any of that type of allocation on ability to pay or population, because TDEC had already done that. But we did notice that the base allocation allotted to Anderson County, to all counties, was about 3.75 times higher than what was allocated to cities. And that's understandable because the county's larger, both from just population and land area and the extent of the systems they serve. But one option we looked at, and what is presented here in the memo that the mayor prepared, is if we basically tried to even the playing field on that base allocation, in which case all 6 entities, so ACWA and then the 5 cities, all receive the same base allocation. And what that winds up doing is essentially reducing ACWA's portion from the $5,081,000 to about $3.8 million, but it allocates around $250,000 to each of the other cities. And it's just an objective, straightforward methodology, again, not messing with anything TDEC had already looked at. But having said that, I will let you think about it.
Any questions for Aaron? Yes, Commissioner Smallridge, go ahead, sir.
I guess I would have anticipated, based on the different allocations, some very significant differences in the amounts going to communities right now, to cities, and yet we're talking about a formula that allocates the same amount to each of those communities, so.
Yes.
Just a comment.
Your observation is correct. Mm-hmm.
Any further questions for Aaron?
And Commissioner Smallridge, to your point on that, again, this is a starting point, so it is certainly something that you all could take into account. If you want to adjust those numbers, this is a starting point for discussion. We thought that was a fair methodology and divide that remainder between the cities. But certainly, I mean, if you feel like whether it's need, project, population, this body has, the discretion to do whatever you want on that if you want to adjust that.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, I guess my thinking on this would be that, as Commissioner Foster was saying, Rocky Top has a lot of needs, as I'm sure Oliver Springs and Norse. And I'm sure if you ask the right people, Clinton and Oak Ridge also, I guess it would be hard for me to understand I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, is except I'm sure that this amount of money is not gonna solve Rocky Top's problems. And I'm sure the numbers that he mentioned toward Norris, this is not gonna solve their problems. Let me just be quiet on that, because I don't know enough about this to express my feelings, except, I guess we've been relying on ACWA for years to get, I guess my objective has always been to get water in every home. And I think that probably in this county, 99% of the people have that. And that's still my objective, I think, with them, is to get water in every home. So I'll see how, as we study this and propose, I'll be interested to see how this plays out. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Foster.
And I'm no expert by any means when it comes to water and sewer. I've dealt with it a lot. You know, and you look at, you're right, $257,000 ain't gonna touch our needs. It will help. And it would help every utility. And so we think about infrastructure, we think about growth, the number one thing that people want is water and sewer and broadband, right? So that's not one thing. Those are the three things. They want infrastructure, right? So when we go to look at growth and how do we grow this county and all these houses coming in, they gotta have sewer and they gotta have land. So where there's land, there's usually not sewer. And so ACWA, like I said, we work great with ACWA. So I understand, I don't want to take anything from them. And I speak for Clinton, the cities usually are the ones that provide sewer infrastructure. County doesn't, because they don't have a sewer plant. And I think that if we're looking at growth, how do we grow this county? We've got to figure out going forward, are we going to look at, is ACWA going to get into the sewer business full time, right? They have sewer, but they send it to CEB. So CEB, at some point, we have more growth than ACWA has the water. No one wants to be in the sewer only business. It's a losing business. It costs more money, so you want to be in water and sewer business if you're going to be in it both. And so if we're going to look at that, if CEB is treating all of ACWA's sewer, and we have, let's say, a new expansion out towards the interstate and out towards Andersonville where there is no sewer, and ACWA says, oh yeah, we'll add some sewer here and we're going to pump it to CEB. So CEB has to go, hey, we can't handle any more sewer. So what do we do? Well, if we would have, I'm not saying $257,000 going to build a sewer plant, but if we don't think about how we all can work together, then the county will never grow when it comes to infrastructure, because there's so many small utilities. I'm a small utility, North's a small utility, CEB is a large utility, Oak Ridge is a large utility, but even the standards that what TDEC looks at as large utilities, all of our systems are small. But we only have so much money, and we all have to work together, because if I'm looking at growth for this county, areas outside that there's land, you think about where growth is, it's outside of Norris, right? So they have sewer systems. You go to Andersonville, there's land going between Rocky Top and Clinton. There's land there, so where there is development, there's no infrastructure. There's water there. Water's easier to run than sewer. And I'm not trying to be an expert by any means. I'm not an expert, but I know enough that how much it costs me to run water compared to how much it costs to run sewer. So, obviously when it comes to voting on this, I'm not gonna vote on it because it affects one way or the other of my system where I work and stuff, so I'm gonna abstain from it, but I want to try to give some knowledge of the sewer system side of things.
It's good points. Thank you.
I got just a comment.
Commissioner Bochamp.
Well, $257,244 doesn't seem like a lot to the city entities. We're all one, so I don't look at us as being city or county, because we're Anderson County as a whole. But with the cost of equipment breaking down, just a culvert itself, it's went up in price. So I'm sure this right here would help each of these entities quite a bit. And even though it doesn't sound like a lot, right now it is a lot. So I'd just like to say I do like this breakdown that has been provided to us, but I don't see us as separate entities for Anderson County as a whole.
I do think from a standpoint, if you look at the state and you look at other projects we might want to accomplish in the future, incorporating a plan that is putting a big share for the county because, you know, that's the only vehicle for the county for ACWA getting money is through us. But then also transferring a portion for their projects. And when, just a special note on transfer, when we transfer, we're not just transferring them money. They actually have to go through TDEC. TDEC will govern the projects. It will still have to meet all of their specs. This isn't a transfer of cash. This is, we're saying to TDEC, we're transferring, and then they're going to be eligible for those funds through TDEC. So if there's, for instance, a sewer, a commissioner's order on your sewer system that has to get cleaned up, the 200 plus that we transfer to that city, they're going to have to spend on that program through TDEC. But from a larger standpoint going forward, if the state looks at Anderson County and says, look, here's what they're doing, and then they're also sharing, I think that's a long-term win for Anderson County when they look at us and they say, well, here's a county where everyone's working well together. And so, you know, I like that plan for that reason, but, you know, I like to put it all before you all.
Commissioner Foster.
And the mayor makes a great point, because I know there might not be any money when that third round of money comes out, but if there is, if we're all work together and we have a plan, then that's something we can apply as a county really quick, be out on forefront, and hopefully get your name on the list somewhere, because we still, even though we have Oak Ridge and Clinton, we're still a very rural community. Anderson County is a very rural county, and infrastructure is a big part, and we're seeing growth from Knox County coming this way. We've seen all the houses that are being built in this area, and that's not, I don't see that slowing down for the county anytime soon, because Emory Road's filling up and they're moving north. And, you know, Oak Ridge, you've seen tons of houses there, so I do think it's something, at some point, we've got, like I said, I like the idea, and like I said, I sat in some meetings early on and we were talking about, hey, how can we work together on this money, because it's once in a lifetime money that help this county and help our citizens and residents.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, how will this impact, like in District 1, we got Hallsdale, Powell? So, you know, they're in Anderson County. So, I mean, I'm not sure how we distribute these funds impact them since they're doing business in Anderson County.
Well, each of the counties get their own funds, and then each of the cities get their own funds. So we did not contemplate, for instance, with ACWA, with Rocky Top, we didn't contemplate service outside of Anderson County when we were looking at how to distribute. So they are getting their own funds in those counties. So
But they're
for
doing business-
Hallsdale, yes,
Yeah, they're doing business in Anderson County,
yes.
and that's some of my concern. I don't know what the impact is if we decide to spend it all in one lump sum to, say, Anderson County Water Authority, or where we split it up, how suggested, but would they have any rights to the funds if they're doing business in Anderson County? That's kind of what I'm asking.
You know, Aaron, you might have a little more insight into that. I know, again, we just only were contemplating within the county boundaries.
Right.
So.
But they are in our county boundaries,
Yes,
is what
yeah.
I'm saying.
But I guess I mean the
actual location of
the actual
corporate-
location and ownership of the utility itself. So Powell Clinch is in Anderson County, for instance, for gas, but yet they reach out into Campbell County. Some go, you know, some of the utilities, I think we might even have ACWA touching Union and Campbell. And I guess conceivably, they could go approach those governments and ask for some funding. And that's where I'm saying, I don't know if Aaron is familiar with any of the utilities going into the other counties and asking for a portion of their funds to service their community.
Yeah, I just would want to do
Yeah.
whatever, as you said, would benefit
Right.
our county. I don't want to be using these funds for utilities outside the county.
Yes. And I can, I had talked to Robbie and Randy about this in terms of Roane County. They have 11 systems that are operating there, and I think they let me follow up on that, but I think they have had some folks that, for instance, if they're served in a different county, actually approach their government about a share of the funding. It might not be Roan, I might be, you're looking at me, have you got the answer?
No, but
Oh.
Commissioner Foster made a comment earlier that he requested funds from Campbell County.
Okay,
For a Rocky Fall, so
Yeah,
that's
and-
exactly what we're talking about.
And they put out a thing saying, hey, they've got $6 million for whatever their amount is, and they asked if you have any needs. So we submitted a letter to them, because where we're running into as a city, we have to do an application for this money to say, yes, we want it. But if you're getting any money from from the counties, you have to do a joint application. We would be the lead, or whoever the money goes to, so the county would say distribute $275,000. We'd put that in our application, but it would be a joint application that we would submit on the city side of things, say, hey, we're getting this funds from these entities, it's all going, because, and the mayor mentioned this, there's a scorecard we did, and the scorecard tells you what you have to spend the money on. If you have more than 2 ranking things, so it's wastewater, water, and an asset management plan. And so whatever you ranked in that, those are where you gotta spend your money first. So if you had 3 that were in the negative, you had to go to the top 2, or 2 out of those 3. You have to address those issues. For us, wastewater was easy as the number 1 thing, and the asset management plans was number 2, because, and then water loss, they have a water loss category. Like ACWA, they would use all theirs, either asset management, water loss, because they don't have a sewer, like I said, a sewer system. They do provide sewer, so, but yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, as long as Knox County's asking us, because I'm not sure Knox County's asked us. But Hosdale Powell has a lot of business in our neck of the woods in District 1, and we've got a pump house over there off Bull Run Creek that they've installed many, many years ago. I think the water treatment facility up there is theirs now. I'm not sure. Up on top of the ridge before you get over into Knox County. So there's a lot of things going on in our county that Hosdale Powell has investments in. And so maybe we'll hear from Knox County, and they'll ask us how much we want to participate. I hope so.
Well, and this question, and Rob might know this, did they get a direct allocation? Like, Anderson County got direct allocation, but like Knoxville, their population, did they still get a direct allocation from TDEC, or were they in a separate? And that could be answering your question, that Knox, because their population, they looked at those, and I don't know, do you know that answer, if they got a direct allocation?
So the city of Knoxville would have received direct
Okay, from TDEC too, they did, okay.
and something else to contemplate, Randy and Aaron are both looking that up. We can still use our regular ARP funds for any special projects. So this is just the additional funds coming from TDEC. So we have been working on the master plan for all of the utilities, and we're not where we need to be in that particular plan, where we have a Claxton solution. As you all know, we allocated $30,000 to look at that. And so, anything that's needed, we could also use our regular funds, because that was the original goal of ARP, was infrastructure, water, wastewater. So 20 million is Knoxville.
That's the city, county got 15, so.
County got 15 million in Knox County.
Can we,
And the city got 20 more?
Yes.
From TDEC.
well, maybe Anderson County Water Authority can help us, or CUB even, and, we need to understand how much of the county residents they're servicing, and maybe we need to make a request to Knox County to, see if they would share some with us. Because otherwise, those individuals in our district will be disenfranchised. They won't get any service from us, because they're not our Anderson County Water Authority's customers.
I'll look into it. I made a note already.
And they, like I said, they got a lot of infrastructure in our neck of the woods over there. So it's something to look into, and good discussion.
Yes.
And Mayor, and Mr. Chairman, I fully intend to support the funding of the 5 million to Anderson County Water Authority, and I'm open to sharing it as you have laid out here to the different entities. I know we're not going to make that decision today, but I just want you to know, Mayor, I'm going to be supportive of. That's kind of what we talked about all along. So I'm supportive of that whenever we get to that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? One question, maybe, I don't know if the mayor and Mr. Foster may be able to answer it, but if a water or sewer system needed to be upgraded a lot, and that system was looking at either having to raise rates and/or take out loans to improve that system, then any amount that we would be able to allocate to them would reduce maybe the rates they would have to increase or the amount of the loan they would have to get?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, we currently are working with Cannon on, we've been working on a master project for rehabbing our sewer system. When we went to look at it 2 years ago, it was $3 million. We're now estimating 4.1, and probably by the time we have this done with this conversation, it'll be at 4.5 when it goes to bid. But so, for example, I have an ARC grant that's 50-50 match, $500,000. So what I'm, from my side of things, and I know probably every other utility is doing the same thing, you're applying for grants, you're applying for, so anything that will take off that $4 million that I have to borrow, I'm gonna do, so.
Could be a direct benefit to
Correct,
the
because,
ratepayer.
like, we apply for SRF, State Revolving Fund, and it's a loan and then any forgiveness. So we applied for $4.1 million and to see how much loan forgiveness. So we're trying to whittle down that 4.1 because at some point, you either gotta borrow money or you gotta raise your rates to cover 4.1 million. We'll have to borrow money and hopefully not have to raise rates because, and Norris runs into the same problem that we do, probably more than anybody in Oliver Springs, same thing, is we have nowhere to expand our system, right? So ACWA surrounds us. So we can go and put sewer. I would say people in Medford would love sewer, but I'm not gonna expand sewer down there because that's not beneficial to my ratepayer because it costs so much money to do sewer and ACWA has the water, right? Oliver Springs will be in the same boat. And I would say CUB's not gonna expand much outside the city limits. You might have had more conversation with them than I have, Mayor, but, they usually try to stay within city limits of Clinton. I know they have that in Claxton, and they're trying to, I think ACWA and them are working together to try to move that to ACWA. Because it's just so hard to expand your system outside of your city limits. There's no taxes. You're literally getting a sewer rate, and it does not cover your cost of doing business.
So, Mayor, you said that the deadline on this would have to be October.
Yes.
So obviously, the quicker we make a decision and take a vote and send it on to commission, I'm assuming would be the better.
Yes.
Understanding what Commissioner Wandell's point was, though, as far as reaching out and having some more communication, I agree with that as well. Is there anyone prepared to make a motion here today on this?
Well, where does it need to go next? Like, is it Budget Committee that needs to make this motion, or does it need to, because the timeline's the biggest concern for everybody.
Well, normally I would take all resolutions through Operations Committee. But as this is the division of funds from TDEC, I think and I discussed this with Robbie and Randy in finance, we believe it needs to come here because it's allocating the funds and it's authorizing the transfer. So the resolution itself, we can come back with that filled in and officially adopt it. If you want to do a transfer, we can officially adopt that next month, or we can have that prepared for full commission if you want to do that authorization here at the budget level tonight. We can have it's just, the whereas we desire and these TDEC funds, and we will be transferring, but we have to say which cities, you actually have to name them, and then you have to name the amount. So.
But there would be an opportunity to do this next month also.
Yes.
Digest this a little bit.
can we make a motion to move it send it to operations for discussion to the rest of the, or do we want to have the discussion at the commission level, like full commission?
I mean, I'm good either way. I'm happy to take it to operations as well
I just
and
didn't
add
know
it under
how
new business
y'all
for
want to
discussion.
proceed.
I would give them time, I guess, to
Sure.
digest and look at it as well. Any further discussion? I don't guess do we need a motion for that?
No, I can just take it upon your request.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Aaron. We appreciate your time.
Okay, section B is the maintenance personnel position for other facilities that also the mayor.
So I just wanted to bring this up before I did any ciphering, as they say. So let me start with some of the issues. The county health department, we had maintenance personnel retire, take another job somewhere else. The funding we have for that particular position, they have not been able to hire somebody for that position in, I feel like it's been a year, I don't know.
It's close, yeah.
Yes, and so we do not have anyone who's capable of providing handyman-type, fix-it maintenance for the health department. So we do that on an as-needed basis. On rare occasions, you know, if we have an emergency, Roger will help out, but most of this is done, you know, if we have an emergency. The staff there does all of their own custodial work as well. They finally, I think, are getting someone there to help with some of the custodial work. Same thing goes for EMS and the senior center. Animal shelter does not have quite as many needs. Same thing for dental clinic. We don't have that maintenance ability. And so I had discussed with each of these departments several months ago, would you all be willing to share someone for, you know, cost efficiencies? And then maybe at that point, we could offer a higher pay rate and recruit someone, but then the majority of time would most likely be at EMS and the EMS stations and the health department, and then a smaller level of need would be at dental clinic, senior center, animal shelter. And so I discussed this idea with Robbie, and we just decided, he recommended that I bring it to you in concept, see, you know, what you thought about the idea. Initially, and this is just a thought, I don't have this formulated, I thought we could, I did talk to Randy, could we use ARP funding for this position for maybe 1 or 2 years? And then as, because I know maybe a couple of these departments don't have room in their budget for a contribution, but then maybe year 2 or year 3, we convert to each of these departments being billed for that portion. So we do that in fleet service, for instance. We cost share with fleet service. If you're getting a repair, you get invoiced. It's handled that way. And then this would be a way to have that additional maintenance person, but then each department be direct billed. So I just wanted to get your feedback, see if that's something that you were like, no way, Mayor, we can't do that, or yeah, come back to us with some numbers.
Any discussion? Commissioner Wandell?
I mean, I'd be interested in seeing the numbers, I guess.
Okay,
You know, I mean, what you're asking for is somebody for maintenance.
yes. And, you know, these are county facilities too, and we really don't have a plan for how we're maintaining them. So it's on an as-needed basis, or many times, we're even doing charity care or charity work, or people that these departments know that can go down there and do something. And I think from a management standpoint, we need dedicated maintenance personnel that can regularly do things from not only emergency fixes, but regularly maintain what is a taxpayer investment.
I'd be interested in seeing more.
And they could help with custodial as well, so if there's nothing to do. So all of these people are doing their own custodial work as well. So you even have your paramedics and EMTs, they're doing the custodial maintenance, and we don't ask that from employees in the courthouse. And, I'm not saying I'm not trying to drive a wedge here and then they're listening and start a revolt, but we are asking them to do that. And we've had our nursing staff for a very long time has done the custodial work as well. So it would be an assist to these departments.
Commissioner Smallridge.
Yeah, Mayor, I guess as I looked at this, I kind of wondered how this would be more advantageous to, have them assigned in a sense. I think is what you're saying, they would be assigned to these auxiliary places, facilities you mentioned, and, why not another maintenance person for your staff, and then you deploy that person as you need to?
Yes. I was just thinking, in terms of how, for you as commissioners, how to justify the expenditure, and that's why I thought a cost-sharing idea would be a good proposal to offer to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see numbers, because I think in the long run, we really could save some money on maintenance of a building, because, it was what was a small leak, we never got to it because we were looking for somebody to volunteer, is now a full-blown water
Yeah.
spraying and sheet rock and floors and everything else. So I'd definitely like to see numbers. I think it's a good proposal.
I will come back. Thank you.
Going along with that, I know at the jail, we have maintenance staff who are continually looking at stuff that is not yet broken. And determining it's only got so much life left in it, so I know by next year, we're gonna have to replace that and have what we call a maintenance plan. And you don't have that if you don't have someone there all the time looking at that stuff. Lord knows, I wouldn't be able to tell it, but I think there certainly is a benefit to that. Any other discussion or questions on that? Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, and the last item in C is the request from nonprofits from the ARP funding. We're having a couple of these requests. They've actually gone through the mayor's office, so she put this on the agenda, and I'm going to let her handle this one as well.
So, as an example, the Child Advocacy Center continues to reach out. They had submitted a request for $14,000 for windows for the estimated cost of replacement. The Cumberland Trails Conference, they are just requesting any contribution towards trail construction. They don't have an amount in mind. They just said anything would be good for the construction. And so I have some options there. Do you want to approve these requests directly at the Budget Committee? Do you want to approve these two requests today? Do you want to refer to the Nonprofit Committee for recommendation for approval and then it comes back here? Or, just another idea I threw on there, you could go ahead and seed and put an amount, one-time ARP money for capital improvements for nonprofits, and you could authorize the Nonprofit Committee to accept applications, and it's already, you've got the money, and then the Nonprofit Committee would essentially approve until it's gone. I mean, that's just another idea, but I continue to have the request for this.
Commissioner Beauchamp.
So how many times has the Child Advocacy Center and the Cumberland Trail people asked for money in the past? Is this something reoccurring every year that they come back and ask for, or is this?
No, so they're just aware there's, nonprofits are eligible for receipt of our county ARP money. The comptroller's office, when we have gone to their presentations about it, they have cautioned us, to be very careful. And that's why we've talked about maybe capital improvements for nonprofits, because then we get into having to monitor what they're doing and verify, and we are responsible. But they're just aware, and that's how these requests have come.
Okay, I was just wondering they're coming reoccurring every year
No.
because they know this is available, and it's the same people coming back, because we do have a lot of nonprofits in Anderson County, and if
Yes.
we're gonna give money away, I would prefer it be to different people of our nonprofits. So that's why I was wondering on that, but as far as I'm concerned, I would like to see it go back to nonprofit, to that committee, and let them address the issue, and then we'll go from there. I think that's the appropriate committee where it should be.
Commissioner Maynard.
I also like the idea of pushing this back to the nonprofit committee and allowing them to review the applications of each nonprofit. And I think that the nonprofit committee could also come up with some criteria where it can only be capital investments, it can only be capital projects, or whatever the stipulation is that the nonprofit come up with. I think that would be, if we could go ahead and authorize the nonprofit committee to also go ahead and allow those funds to be distributed, that would be a good way to expedite getting the money to the people who need it.
Commissioner Smalley.
I was gonna say pretty much the same thing. I would like to see this go back to the nonprofit. You know, they've worked hard, they've got some criteria. I think it'd be very good for them to take a look at that and then come back to us.
Any further discussion? Yeah, I wish Commissioner Yeager was still been here. He spent a lot of time drafting the criteria for the nonprofit for this. I think this would probably be the first time we would actually meet to utilize that, so.
Commissioner Wandell's on that committee also. We
Yeah.
haven't had any requests since we formed our last
Apparently, they're
criteria.
still going through the mayor's office. They probably don't know
So,
yet.
so
I
I
mean,
guess,
officially, anyway.
yeah, so maybe from a motion standpoint, if we could get a motion that any nonprofit requests for ARP money be submitted to the nonprofit committee, and then that way, if we have that motion, then I can go back to at least these two and say, here's the process, here's who you need to contact, here's the chairman. I think it starts with submitting an application to Robbie's office, actually. And if you all want to, part of that motion, if you want to go ahead and allocate funds, or if you just want to wait and take it one by one, I would suggest myself that you might just choose an amount up front, and then that way, because if the word gets out, you're probably going to have $4 million worth of requests. So if you know, or maybe you don't do that today, but maybe next month you go ahead and seed an amount for that committee, and then that helps the committee members on the nonprofit committee. We have, mm-hmm.
That was many years ago. We haven't had a nonprofit. You're right, yes, sir. You're correct, you're correct. Did we set any funds aside for the 20?
We did not, and we also, any funds before they could be approved, if the nonprofit committee approves it, it has to come to budget committee, and then it has to go to
Yes.
commission.
So-
Yeah.
And I still wouldn't mind that happening and not just let the nonprofit make
So
that
we have a
decision.
nonprofit, but we don't have any funds earmarked.
Right.
And the way I understood it, it was gonna go through, as Robbie said, fill out an application, they would vet it, basically, forward it on to nonprofit, we would support it or deny it, and then it would go back to budget and move forward.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I think we can do the same thing here for now.
And you're just saying set a cap? like,
Yeah, I would, yes.
We're not gonna spend any more than 100,000 on nonprofit,
Yes.
and then, but I don't know if we want to, I'm not saying 100,000 what we want to set it on, but you're saying just so.
Didn't we discuss that in that nonprofit meeting?
Yeah, I think we need to have a meeting of the nonprofit
Yeah.
and
I can't remember
figure
why
out.
we didn't.
I'm not in favor of taking any of the ARP funds and putting them into nonprofits. I'm just one guy talking. I think we got a heck of a lot of stuff to do in the county that we need those funds for, and, you know, there's a lot of projects. I mean, it's on this sheet right here, and, I mean, there's $8 million. I mean, I don't, you know, so, I'm okay with taking some money out of the undesignated fund balance like we used to, 75,000, 100,000, whatever the number may be. And then we earmark that for nonprofits, and people come in and ask, and we do it that way. But I'm not in favor of saying, let's take 100,000 out of this ARP, throw it over there in addition to the 75,000 for more nonprofits. I mean, one, it takes away all the work that these commissioners are doing, Now we're trying to figure out who we're gonna give money to that it may have an impact in the county. I'm not discrediting that, but we got a lot of things that are brick and mortar, operational things and needs, and, you know, I don't know how many times I've heard about capital outlay, you know, so let's use these funds to take care of our own needs, is what I'm saying.
I'll get a nonprofit meeting scheduled for next month.
Okay.
So can we have a motion to send this to nonprofit?
I'll move to.
Moved by Commissioner Smallridge, seconded by Commissioner Vandergrift. Any further discussion?
I'd like to thank the mayor for bringing it to our attention, you know, I appreciate it.
Let's recommend a $75,000 here.
Okay.
Of the ARP funds?
No,
I was just asking.
no.
I mean, the request is ARP
I
funds.
think we need to be very frugal with this money.
Yes, sir. I agree. We're on the same
But
page.
let's, out of undesignated reserve, let's count that at 75,000.
That
Give
okay?
them something to work with.
Is that all right with you, Commissioner Smallridge? The motion read that way?
Yes, yeah.
Is that okay with your second?
Shelley's-
Is that okay with your second? Sorry. Any
I
further?
think I'd let Shelley have it.
I mean, and keep in mind, the application process is gonna weed some of this out
Mhm.
anyway, so it doesn't, just because someone applies a request, doesn't even mean they're gonna get even to budget, to the nonprofit committee. Cause if it doesn't meet this requirements, I'm gonna reject it on the front end. So,
Any
I got,
further?
I got a comment or a question for Robbie. So once they apply, they make it through the vetting process, send it to nonprofit, say they get 14,000. Can they come back in 6 months and ask for it again, or are we gonna stop it at one person per nonprofit?
I thought in the nonprofit, in the policy, we might have made I can't remember, we've only met once with
I
that.
just wanna make sure that one or two nonprofits aren't getting the whole
We can,
75,000
I
when
think
there's
we
a line
made
here.
that part of the policy, but I'll have to double check
Okay.
that, but we can definitely recommend that as
Yeah.
part of it.
Once a year anyway.
I do
Yeah.
know in the questionnaire for the application, it says, have you received funding before?
I just
And
wanna
so
make
it's a
sure that
way
in-
for the committee to make a judgment call that you've
In
already been here
6
before.
months, they're not
Yeah.
coming back and being like, oh, the county still has $60,000 in there, I'm gonna take the 60,000. That's what I wanna make sure is not gonna happen.
Well, we did this for a reason because we have people that show up at commission level asking for funds, and we were taking them one at a time, and a lot of commissioners did not want that to happen, so we set up a policy. We haven't had any since then. So, I mean, I'll have to review that, and it was a brand-new policy, so I'll have to review that, and, but definitely we need to meet and, discuss this, so.
Just a clarification, we're not saying, I mean, any request for funds for nonprofits would still have to come back to budget.
Yes.
And commission.
Yes.
I
I
mean-
think nonprofit is going to do the heavy lifting and get the information that we're all asking here tonight about, not necessarily the worthiness, but how often have they come, what service do they provide to the community, so forth and so on, and then it'll come back here for the
Yeah.
approval of
And the
commission
nonprofit's made
recommendation.
of commissioners so if it gets through nonprofit and comes to budget and makes it through budget, then there's a good chance it's gonna pass,
Yeah.
obviously, because it's been through a lot of commissioners already, so. But it has to get that far. So.
The cap is just intended to, I think where the cap would help is it gives the committee guidance on if somebody comes with a $70,000 request, it's gonna eat up. So, part of that nonprofit committee says that you can fund part of their project. So they may come for 14,000 and you say, well, based on our cap of 75, we want to make sure that we help other nonprofits. We'll give you 5 for your project. And so that just helps the committee with some of the guidance.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, Chairman Bell, under new business, I do have one new budget amendment that I handed out tonight. It's for state mental health transport. It's our third time receiving this grant funds of $155,977, and it's for transportation of mental health patients through the sheriff's department. So, it's
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Wandell moves to approve
20.
number 20.
I didn't put a number on it.
Yeah.
I apologize. I just got that today.
Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Foster. Any further discussion?
No, I I'd just say that's a chunk of money for transportation. Yeah.
Well, last couple of years, we've also bought a vehicle with this money. I know the sheriff's department ends up transferring money at the end if they don't use it they have that option also, but if we don't spend it, we write a check back to them, and we have done that. We haven't spent it all the last 2 years.
And also, just for some clarification, what this is for, if someone needs to be transported to a mental health facility, instead of a deputy sheriff having to put the person in the back of a marked police car and driving them to Chattanooga, this is the alternative to that. So I think it's probably been a cost-effective alternative if you added it all up.
We partner with the Mayor
Maramed?
Med, I think, yeah, that's who we're paying. We contract with them to do this service, so it's money that we use to pay that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
No.
One no. Motion carries.
All right, and one other thing under new business, it could be old business too, but in the March commission meeting, Commissioner Wandell made a motion to approve a letter of consent to place a historical marker on the Pier farm. Well, Jay sent me an email this week, and the Tennessee Historical Commission sent us a letter. They're pleased to inform us that the Monuments and Markers Committee recommended and the Historical Commission voted to approve the Anderson County Pier Farm proposed historical marker, and that cost is $2,150 to the county. So I have funds available. I just want to make sure, I want this body's approval to go ahead and pay this bill for that marker, or we can take it out of.
Do you have a certain fund you want to take it out of?
Well, it's already in the general fund and the general administration, other supplies. I'm just going to take it out of a code that we have some funding.
Make a motion to pay the sign costs for the historical marker for the Pier farm.
Motion made by Commissioner Wandell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is the sign already up?
No, it will take, in this letter, it also says that it will take 18 to 24 weeks to be delivered, and that if we want to arrange any kind of a ceremony, that should be arranged at the local level.
Second the motion.
Second by Commissioner White. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and under old business, the last thing I handed out to you all was the ARPA projects as of August 31st, 2022. This lists all the projects that have been approved so far by County Commission, and at the cost of $8,281,612.63. We also have committed but not spent or appropriated yet the emergency broadband matching funds. We won't spend those funds unless those companies receive that grant, and if they do, then we will. Each of those would receive $200. I think there were two, if I'm not mistaken, in the county that applied. Each would receive $250,000 out of our total allocation of $14,952,074, which we have received all of those funds. I don't know if you noticed on the cash and fund balance report, but the cash balance for the 121 fund is $14,813,226, and we haven't spent a lot of that money, even though we've allocated a lot of it. We still haven't spent a lot of it. Anyways, net remaining allocation is $6,170,461.37. And I think one thing to keep in mind too, out of our 14 million, almost 15 million, 10 million of those funds were considered revenue loss, so we can kind of spend it any way you want to. The other 4.9 million will have a lot more restrictions, so we have to be, with the remaining projects, we're going to have to make sure they fall under those, we can meet those restrictions, I guess, is mainly what I'm trying to say. Anyway, that's just a quick update with the ARP funds. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Randy, you could probably answer better than me.
Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Down at the bottom of that list, before it gets to the totals, Tennessee Emergency Broadband Fund grants, matching funds, we took out $500,000 for that. I think it was one of the first things we did.
Yes.
Where are we on that? And what's going on? I still have folks in my district, and I know it's an outlier, and I've seen the emails, and I know the mayor's worked on it, and certainly not her fault or your fault, but, you know, it kind of bothers me. We take the money and put it aside. There's no cost to the, you know, that's kind of the part that bothers me. The state matches, I mean, there's really no cost to these cable companies, from what I can see. I mean, 70% is being matched by the state. We're matched 30%, zero cost to them, but yet they tell our people they can't run the cable to them or the broadband. That kind of, you know, I don't understand that.
They
way of
haven't won the grant. They have to win that award, and they haven't been awarded those funds yet, is the way I understand it.
So both of the grant applications, both the Comcast and the Highland Communications, both of those are finalists. So they have not made the final decisions in Nashville yet. I don't know, I can try to find out when that's expected, but I did get notice from Highland, and I know I got notice, as did you, from Comcast, that they were a finalist for that application.
How will we be able to tell if they get awarded? I mean, specifically, you know what I'm driving to. I want to know what's going on with Burley Nelson Lane. Why can't we get broadband to those folks when it's right at the end of the street?
I know. I mean, my mom's out. Her entire life has wanted cable, and she's still on satellite. And it's, I think, a $10,000 investment to get a line to her house.
Let's get her taken care of.
My brother did get Starlink, so that's working for him. I know that Highland let me know. Comcast, I had to reach out. You also had to reach out. But I would assume when they if they win, they're gonna let us know ASAP, because they're gonna want the money. They're gonna want our match.
So
to make that go through.
Is it your understanding Highland could fill the gap there? If Comcast doesn't run it out, Burley Nelson, could Highland step in?
No, not to my knowledge. That's not their service area. I will say, though, and I think I came to you all for some reason on, I'm drawing a blank, but Charter Communication has filed with the state of Tennessee to enter our market. And, you know, when you have more competition, more people are going to get served. So they did file their paperwork. Oh, I know. I came to you all for authorization because asking for another government channel. So we have Channel 95, but if Charter steps into our community, we would have the ability to get another channel, another community channel that we could do community programming on as part of when they're in our community. So I've not seen advertising yet for them offering specials or what they're doing, but I could certainly check and see if I can find out what that status is for Charter.
Anything you can do to kick them in the knees to get service to Burley Nelson, I appreciate it.
Okay.
I'll keep kicking too.
That's kind of got my wheels turning. When they apply to the state mayor, do you know what that procedure is? How they go through that to get approved?
They actually had, so in both of those applications, and I know specifically that Highland was very communicative about the process. They actually had their engineers out, you know, boots on the ground, because they have to verify the residences. They have to look. I know they were even up in Commissioner Vandegrift's district to see if they could not branch out in that particular area. So I guess it's all, I don't know, this is above my head when it comes to, you know, their fiber and where they can expand or not expand. They, you know, obviously can't just go out in the middle of nowhere if they don't have, you know, something to connect to.
But when Charter files with the state, what committee is it heard by committee, then
They
on to the
do,
state legislature?
they have to apply to the Public Service Commission,
Okay.
I believe it is. And I pulled down their application, and I, for the life of me, can't remember what I read today.
Okay.
You know, there's just a lot up there, and I have to move stuff out. But they filed, and I know Charter is very much in Knoxville. I don't know about their presence in Campbell County, Union County, or Roane. I do know they're very active in Knoxville, so I would assume they would start coming in to me, Commissioner Wandell, that might be charter might be, you know, I know they're in Solway and that particular area, that might be something where they can move into the Claxton area very easily, in the Powell area.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further questions or discussion?
Just one more thing. I would, just for a quick, how the budget agenda works, or budget committee agenda. Normally, our the agenda deadline is Monday at 2 o'clock before the meeting on Thursday. This particular month, we had a holiday on Monday, but I always put a hard copy of the budget agenda in your all's mailboxes that Tuesday morning, so you don't have to print them. If you want to pick them up and review it early, it's in your box. Just wanted to let you all know that. I didn't probably get it in there till Wednesday morning this week, but usually it's there Tuesday morning, sometimes late Monday afternoon if we have a good week or a good month of budget agendas. So anyway, that's how the process works. Or if you have any questions ever, just give me a call. I don't mind you all asking at all. Any questions?
Any further business come before the committee?
Quick question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to reestablish you as the chairman, or is that?
If it's all right with everybody, let's wait until next month. Everybody be thinking about that. I know all the nominating committee work and full commission work will be done by then, and then we can have elections on that next month.
That's good.
All right, thank you
We
all.
are adjourned.
You know, we gotta take a motion to adjourn.
According to Phil Yeager, we don't have a motion to adjourn.